All right, there we go, guys. Michigan Motorsports sent me another cam bearing. I beat it in there, lining up the groove with the hole in the bearing. It beat in just like the rest of them. It was nice and tight. And there we go. We got the cam in there, and it spins like butter. So all new cam bearings. Woot woot. New cam retainer plate with ARP bolts. I put those on. Put the fastener assembly lube on them. That's what it said to use on those. And it said to torque them to 25 foot-pounds. So that's all torqued up. Now we can line up our dots, which I already know that's going to go to the 3 o'clock position. And then we need to find our mark on our crank gear, which isn't easy to do with that big oil pump in the way. But we'll find the mark on that, and then we'll go ahead and throw the timing chain on. All right, I got it close to top dead center. Anytime, this is the number 1 cylinder, and the number 6 cylinder is the twin cylinder. But anytime this dot is straight up, that's the dot right there. Anytime that dot is straight up, your piston, 1 and 6, should be at top dead center. We don't have it all the way up just yet, but as you can see, it's hard to see with the timing chain on. But trying to get that right at straight up and down. Right there. Straight up and down. It's not straight up and down just yet. I'm going to put my finger on it and turn it over until it's lined up with the bottom of that cam retainer bolt. Alright, now it's straight up and down. As you can see, it's hard to see right there. It's hard to see behind that oil pump. That's it. You can see piston 1, piston 6 are at true top dead center. It's so funny, LS pistons, they stick out of the hole at top dead center. Small block Chevy don't do that. Small block Chevy's about 0.25 in the hole. Those stick out. I don't know how much, but they do stick out. Let's put the cam sprocket on. All right, there we go. That cam dot straight down. And that crank gear with the dot on it straight up, dot to dot. As you can tell, it's not exact, but if I turn the motor over a little bit, that one, well, I gotta turn it backwards actually. If I turn it backwards, this teeth's gonna come this way, and that one's gonna go that way, and they'll line up, and I'll show you that here in a minute. But we're gonna Loctite the bolts. I can already tell it's lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and Loctite the bolts and put those in, and then I'll turn it a little bit to line it up. If this one's on this side and this one's on this side, or this one's on this side and this one's on this side, you can turn it a little bit and line it up. But you need to verify that it is, in fact, perfectly lined up. But I know it will perfectly line up once I turn it a little, because I know which way they turn. So we'll go ahead and put the lock bolts in this and Loctite these to. Alright, I turned it back just a little. You'll see that's the one with the dot in it. Straight up and down. It's so hard to see that dot. But yeah, it's right there at the base of the tooth. See it? Yep, there, perfectly lined up. Alright, there we go. We went 22 foot-pounds on those with Loctite. Alright, I guess we're going to put the front cover on first. I went ahead and took a screwdriver and popped out the old front sill, and it went flying somewhere. I have no idea where it went. Oh, it went over there. Anyway, that one goes in there just like that. Usually what I do is I put a board over that and then just tap it in with a hammer, nice and even. All right, I had taken this out. I took that board, took a hammer and beat her in there. It's in there nice and straight. All right, cleaned off all my surfaces, even on the block there, especially right in this area, because then we're going to do it too. People put RTV in this area so you don't get an oil leak in that little groove where everything goes together. And you got the block, the oil pan, and the cover all going together right there. So put just a little bit of RTV right there on both corners. And we're going to do that. All right, put the gasket on and put the bolts through them. Just hold everything tight. But now we're going to tighten these bottom 2 bolts first. We're just going to get these started and get everything aligned. All right, there we go. I just finger tightened all these. And then I tighten these first to pull the cover down to the pan. And 18 foot-pounds, I did a crisscross pattern, 18 foot-pounds on these. It's all tightened. Now, before we change the barbell and the rear cover and the rear cover sill, we have to take the motor off the stand, so we might as well do everything else first. So we're going to put the lifters and the trays in, and then we're going to use a straight edge and check all our head surfaces and our block surfaces just to make sure they're flat as can be. Hopefully they are. Then we'll put the heads and the head gaskets on it. We'll get the top end done, then when we take it off the engine stand, we'll do the rear seal, the rear cover, the barbell, and the flex plate. And I know some people, there's a lot of discussion on whether you should soak your lifters or not, but I soak mine. But anyway, the front of that lifter has a ledge on it. See, those ledges go on these ledges. That's what keeps your lifter from spinning, because roller lifters, they gotta stay straight. And see, and then they go up and down in these bores, and that flat edge on each side hold them straight. So we'll go ahead and put 4 lifters in this tray, and then we'll drop them down in the engine. All right, there we go, the flat end to flat end. Slide them right up in there. See how it holds all the rollers straight. And just they're not perfectly straight, so you gotta kind of finagle them into the holes. There we go. And we'll put the bolt in. And that's it right there. They move up and down in them grooves in the tray, and that flat edge on each side of the lifter is what holds them straight inside the tray. Let's put all those in. All right, took a razor blade and some carburetor cleaner, brake cleaner, and cleaned off the block where the head's going to go the best I could, and then I used a straight edge and shined a light from the other side. Everything looks pretty straight. If you shine a light from the other side, you'll see. I don't know if I showed y'all on my 5.3, but the very bottom down here, you can see all kinds of light through it, and it still seals, believe it or not. I run 16 to 18 pounds of boost on that motor. And there were a few spots I could barely see some light through, but it wasn't nothing compared to my 5.3. So we're gonna roll with it. Over here, we're just cleaning off this with a razor blade. And you gotta be really careful on these aluminum heads with the razor blade, because if you gouge the aluminum, you could have problems. If you go backwards, you can get most of it up, see? And you won't gouge it going backwards. But yeah, gonna get these cleaned up, throw the head gasket on, and throw the heads on. And those tray bolts, I just snug those up. Man, go crazy with those. They're a small bolt, they'll break. I don't know what the torque is on. It's probably like 80 to 100 inch-pounds, I would guess, but I just snugged them up. But those trays, once you put the heads on, those trays ain't gonna go nowhere. The head holds them in place. Alright, got the head clean. Just lightly with a razor blade going backwards, and then some brake cleaner. Same thing on the pistons. I hit those one time. Now we're gonna air up the air compressor and blow these holes out. Make sure absolutely nothing's in them holes before we put the head on and torque it down. Alright, tossed on the head gaskets. They're usually marked front and back. Doesn't matter what side you put them on. It says front or back on either side, but you see how this front one don't have these ports? You gotta have these ports in the back. And those ports got to go to the back if they're not marked. I've had some I bought that ain't marked. Just gotta make sure these ports are in the back. Alright, we're gonna put in ARP head bolts. Now, there's different types. There's types of that'll have the step right there, and then it's got the angled end. That angle side of the washer has to go up in there. And there's some that are just flat on both sides. Those don't really matter. And then there's some that's flat on one side and corrugated on the other. The corrugated side has to go towards the head. But we're going to put some of that ARP fastener stuff on them and send them on in. And we're going to put a little bit of that between the bolt and the washer too, because we want the washer to act like part of the head. We don't want the washer to spin. We want the bolt to spin in the washer. And you'll feel it when you're torquing it. You'll feel when that washer spins and throw your reading off. And so that washer acts like part of the head. We're going to make sure, you know, where that washer goes on the head is nice and clean as well. We'll probably have to use a screwdriver. We're going to get these surfaces nice and clean because the washer needs to act like part of the head. Alright, there we go. On these 98 to 2003, there's two short bolts that go at each end, and the rest of them are these long bolts. And these don't get torqued much. They're really small, but we're going to start on these first. We'll go 3 different passes. I'm going to have to look up the torque on these because I forgot. But I'll tell you what we're going to do here in a minute. I'll figure out the torque specs. But that's the pattern we're going to go in. What in the world? We'll go here, here, and we're going to go like a U pattern. This ratchet only does about 30 foot-pounds, so we'll do the first pass about 30 foot-pounds. But I usually go these two in the middle and I'll do a U pattern. Oh, we need to go here next, don't we? Or we already did those. But we'll figure out the torque, and then we'll do 3 ways. And we'll start here, and we'll just do a U pattern and a U pattern, and then we'll do these top ones last. So here are the directions. It says to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does a crisscross pattern, but 1, 2, and then a U pattern works the same. But it says first pass 25, second pass 50, and then third pass 80, and then these top go to 25 foot-pounds. You do those last. So let's set the torque wrench on 25. We'll go through them. And we'll do what it shows. But you can do the U pattern too. I usually go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you can do a crisscross pattern too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Or yeah. 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. 25, 50, 80. Alright, first pass of 25. We did the sequence, did 25 pounds. And my battery must be dead on my electric ratchet there, because none of these were even at 25 yet. So now we'll put this on 50 and we'll go through them again. And then 80 and go through them again. And that sequence that the directions show. 25, 50, 80. Alright, heads are all bolted down. Now we're going to check pushrod length on a few of them. So we'll turn the motor over. That's the exhaust one. Exhaust, intake. But the exhaust to open, then it'll close. The intake open, it'll close, and then the intake will close. We'll give it a little bit of turn and put them both on the base circle of the cam. I took the spark plugs out so we can turn it over easy. See, the exhaust is opening on that one. It closed. Intake's opening on that one. And it closed, and we'll give it just a little bit more turn. Now we're just gonna tighten these up just enough to get the slack out of them. So,
I got the valley code.
TJ come to visit.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good. So from 0 lash to 22 pounds on the base lobe of the cam, it was like 3/4 of a turn. So a half to 1.5 turns, I'm told. So we're gonna get some hardened 7.4, ain't it?
7.400.
Push rods, and then we'll torque those down. We'll get those all set. Then we'll have to order some knock sensors and a harness, and then we need the turbo oil feed that comes off that. Alright guys, on that, so if you're on the base lobe of the cam, you just tighten that nut, the rocker arm nut, up until there's no up and down movement on the push rod. It's hard to get your fingers in there. You can also feel it on the rocker arm, but just get the slack out of it. Make sure you're on the base lobe of the cam, just get the slack out of it. And then once you get the slack out of it, do the 22 foot-pounds, and it should be a half to 1.5 turns. Now, if it's too many turns, you need a shorter push rod. So think about that. You got a real long push rod, and this will tighten down until it hits, you know, on its saddle. So if you keep tightening it up, it pushes the plunger down in the lifter, or even till the lifter bottoms out. But yeah, too many turns, you need that shorter, you need a shorter push rod. Now, not enough turns, that means it's already bottomed out and it's hit the poundage and it's not even pushing the push rod down in the lifter to get the preload. If not enough turns, then you need a longer push rod. But I've done a bunch of these. I've put a cam in a lot of them and I've checked it, and honestly, I've never seen one that didn't want the stock length 7.4 push rod. Now, when you start to decking the block and milling the heads and stuff like that, that's when usually the push rod length is going to change. But you know, if you got a stock thickness gasket and your heads and block ain't been milled anything, then it should still be 7.4, should be the magic push rod length, which is the stock length. And the door is going to slide all open and close and make a lot of noise. But yeah, ordered hardened push rods. In my 5.3 that I boost to 16 to 18 pounds of boost, I use the stock push rods and I use the stock rocker arms. But we're going to get hardened push rods for this one, and we are going to run the stock rocker arms, though they work just fine. I saw a car at Kentucky Dragway the other day running 7s in the quarter mile at like 160, 170 with the stock rocker arms. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. All right, with the cover, the rear cover off, took a screwdriver and popped that out. And then I put the rear sill on the same way I did the front sill, with just a board and a hammer. But this time I used that to guide it on to make sure it's straight, and I pushed it back. Then I snugged all these bolts. I went ahead and tightened these bolts first, and I tightened these last, just to make sure that stays straight. I did the silicone in the corners again. And we'll put the flex plate on, and we'll Loctite the bolts. Put the flex plate on, Loctite the bolts, and then we'll put our little adapter sleeve in it. And we got to line up that dowel pin with that one right there, the way it came off. Alright, we'll Loctite our bolts and put those on and torque them down. Alright, Loctited the flex plate bolts, stuck a screwdriver in here to hold back there, and torque these. One pass is 74 or 40 pounds, and then 74 foot-pounds. And Christopher's flex plate has a hole. The Turbo 350, the Power Glide, the 700 R4, and even the pre-90 up to 97 4L60E, 200 R4, whatnot, Turbo 350, Power Glide, 700 R4, 4L60E up to 97, and including 97, they all use the same torque converter bolt spacing. Turbo 400 and 4L80E, they share the same bolt spacing. This is a 4L60E flex plate, and it has its own bolt spacing. But fortunately, Christopher's converter comes with all 3 bolt holes. So we're using the stock flex plate, but we do need the adapter snout for the torque converter. Alright, got the balancer on. I barely tapped it with that hammer and that piece of board right there. Just enough to get the old bolt started. I got the old bolt started. I ain't gonna lie, the torque on this thing is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I sent the old bolt with the impact as far as it would go. I backed it out. I put the new bolt on there, and I even put Loctite on it, and I sent it with the impact as far as it's going to go. And that impact's supposed to go up to 220 foot-pounds from what I understand. But yeah, that's the way I did the 5.3, and that's the way I'm doing. I don't have a torque wrench that, or yeah, I'm just sending it with the impact. End of story. All right, I got her stabbed in there all by my lonesome. But you know what I forgot? I forgot transmission bolts. This motor is metric. Gotta have some metric, so we'll go grab some of those.